Alright guys, welcome back to another deck guide, this time featuring the White Forest Azamina archetype. This is a bit of a weird archetype that is primarily a White Forest deck, but uses a small Azamina engine along with the Diabellstar package to allow us to get some extra disruptions and unlock some extra plays. So starting off, all of our true starters are White Forest cards, that is 2 Astalars, 3 Elzets, and 2 Sylvies. Ruchia is an extender, she can't really get you going on her own, and Elzet, while possibly the best card in the entire deck, is not a starter. She is very much an extender. So, real quick, Astalar requires a normal summon unless you have some other way to special summon her, but you can spend a spell trap from hand or field to graveyard, special summon a spellcaster tuner from your deck, which is almost always going to be Sylvie. Unless you already have a Sylvie, then you just get Ruchia, and that just gets you to full combo. Elzet allows you to special summon her from your hand by sending a trap or spell from your hand or field to the graveyard, and then you can search a spellcaster, which off of Elzet you can get either of these. If you do not have an Astalar or another good normal summon, you want to be getting Sylvie to take up that normal summon spot. If you have an Astalar already, or you have one as well, then you want to get Ruchia because she can special summon herself. The other thing about these two guys is that Astalar brings herself back from graveyard when you send a spell or trap from hand or field to the graveyard for cost, so she just gets you an extra material, and then Elzet can return herself from graveyard to hand, so she gets you a follow-up play for the next turn. Our tuners are Sylvie, who has no way to special summon herself, but if normal or special summon, allows you to search a White Forest spell or trap, and then both of our tuners can return themselves from graveyard to the field by returning a White Forest synchro monster from graveyard or field to your extra deck. So that means you can use your extra deck monsters as material, return them to the extra deck to get your tuners out to just keep extending. These guys are great. Ruchia special summons herself out if you have a White Forest monster already, and you can send a spell or trap from hand or field to the graveyard to just draw a card. She's really good if you have an extra piece just sitting on the field that you don't need. She's able to trigger Astalar's effect to reborn herself. She's able to get your toy box monsters in the graveyards to trigger their effect. She's just like an extra piece that increases the consistency of the deck, in addition to just being a tuner. Elzet Azamina is an insane card, so you can reveal her from your hand. First off, she is searchable through Azamina or White Forest means. You can reveal her from hand to special summon a White Forest or an Azamina monster from your hand, which almost always she just uses this effect to special summon herself. And then she can act as a polymerization for an Azamina fusion monster, but that is not her primary effect. Her primary effect is that if you use her as synchro material, you can search a Sinful Spoils card and add it to your hand. This effect allows you to use her as part of the White Forest combo and bridge over into the Azamina part of the combo and just keep going from there. She's kinda... Obviously, you can tell from her name using both Azamina and White Forest, but she is very much the archetypal bridge between these two, and she is a really, really good one. Tales of the White Forest is our Rhoda. You have to control an illusion or a spellcaster, but you can search a White Forest monster from deck to hand. Like all of the White Forest spells and traps, if you send this to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, it sets itself. So the whole idea behind White Forest is that you use one of your level 2s, send a White Forest spell or trap, you get their effect, and then the White Forest spell or trap comes back to be used anyways or sent again in case you don't have to actually use it. Next up we have Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. This is another card that is searchable through Sinful Spoils or White Forest means, both of which we have a number of, and it allows us to special summon a monster from hand or fusion summon a monster from extra deck. And this is a quick effect, so you can do it on the opponent's turn. It also sets itself if sent. We don't use this super often, though you can fusion into a Saint Azamina on the opponent's turn. More often than not, we're just using it as 2 materials that you can send to the graveyard. We kind of need a critical mass of Sinful Spoils cards in this deck, and this is just one of them. Then we've got the Diabellstar package. The Diabellstar package consists of Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils and Diabellstar the Black Witch. Either of these searches the other one but mostly you're just using it as 5 copies of Diabellstar herself, who can special summon herself out and search a Sinful Spoils card, which is, again, normally bridging you into one of the engines you did not already have access to. Of note is the fact that Wanted can also be banished from your graveyard to shuffle a Sinful Spoils back into your deck and just draw you a card. So even though Diabellstar herself requires you to discard a card, you end up making that back up over the course of the combo. Then we've got the Azamina cards. There are not a whole lot of them in the main deck, because Azamina primarily does not have a ton of main deck cards, they just use the Sinful Spoils that already exist. But one named card that we actually do use is the Hollowed Azamina, and this allows you to fusion summon an Azamina monster from your extra deck using Sinful Spoils, spells, and traps that you have. This is a very interesting mechanic. Basically, if you go into one of our level 6s, you have to send 1 Sinful Spoils. If you go into our 1 level 10, then you have to send 2 Sinful Spoils cards. But either of those conditions are not terribly difficult to engineer in this deck. The Hollowed Azamina has no once per turn clause on its actual fusion, and you can return it from your graveyard to hand by shuffling an Azamina monster into the deck once per turn. So you can only return it once per turn, but you can fusion with as many as you have. We only ever want to use it to fusion summon twice, and it is highly searchable, so we only play 1 copy. It is searchable off of Deception of the Sinful Spoils, and Deception of the Sinful Spoils requires you to tribute a monster from hand or field, so that's either a piece that's clogging up your field or something from hand you don't really need, to search an Azamina card from deck to hand. That's most of the time going to be Hollowed Azamina, but sometimes you have to grab an LZ to continue comboing. Just keep in mind those are the only searchable things off of Deception. The rest of its text does not matter too terribly much, but be aware that if you do send it with Hollowed Azamina, it will set itself at your end phase so that you can send it later or use it again the next turn or what have you. We're also playing the Toy Box package, which consists of Toy Soldier, Toy Tank, and Toy Box. So the whole idea here is that Toy Box is a continuous spell, you play it, you activate, and it sets both Toy Tank and Toy Soldier as spells that you can then use to fuel all of your effects that send spells from field to the graveyard. And when Toy Tank or Toy Soldier are sent to the graveyard, they reborn themselves as actual monsters on your side of the field, and each one has a unique but very, very powerful effect. Toy Soldier can search you either a toy box if you don't already have a toy box, or if you just need more fodder somehow. Toy box should really be all the fodder you need for any given combo, but you know, just in case. Or he can search you one of your level 4 lights, which will always be Sylvie or Ruchia, which means that you can do some funny little things where you don't start with a true starter, but as long as you can send a Toy Soldier, you can grab Sylvie and you can start from there. And then Toy Tank can tribute itself to special summon a level 6 from your hand if you don't have Toy Box, or hand or graveyard if you do have Toy Box. This is one way where if we have already normal summoned a Sylvie, for example, we can then tribute Toy Tank to special summon Astalar to get that part of the combo. But you can also use it to reborn materials from your graveyard, to use as extra synchro material, for example. It's an incredibly versatile extender. And the best part about the whole package is that Toy Box is a soft once per turn, and its second effect is that it allows you to destroy 2 cards in your spell and trap zone. That means that, and I'll show you this combo in the combo section in just a moment, if you open double Toy Box, you can use one to set both of your toys, and then play another one to destroy both of your toys to get the search and the special summon and all that stuff, and that actually functions as a true starter if you have 2 Toy Boxes. But one in and of itself will not do it for you. I forgot to move these, but we do play a couple of extra Sinful Spoils down here just to get our Sinful Spoils count up for the Hollowed Azamina, mostly because we play Saint Azamina in this build of the deck, so we sometimes do want to have multiple Sinful Spoils rather than most decks, which will only ever tribute the Deception to Hollowed Azamina. We want 2 in an optimal combo line. So Morian is a very, very good card that allows you to Book of Moon a special summon monster on the field as a trap, and if you control a level 5 or higher illusion monster while this is in your graveyard, you can set this card. So what this normally means is that we tribute Sinful Spoils to Hollowed Azamina, and then we have an illusion monster on the field, and we can set this and use it on the opponent's turn as well. We also play one Silvera. Silvera is a little bit more take it or leave it. Its primary effect is that you can send a Haya Bellstar monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, then target a monster on the field and negate its effects. We don't use that one terribly often, but it has another one when it is in the graveyard, that if your opponent activates a card or effect in response to a Haya Bellstar's effect or a Sinful Spoils effect, you can banish this card and negate their response. That one sees quite a bit more play. So the idea is that we can tribute this, and then if they try to respond to any of our Haya Bellstar or Sinful Spoil stuff for the rest of our turn or on their turn, we can banish this and say, no, you aren't touching our stuff. We play 14 pieces of non-engine in this build of the deck, and notice that we play a lot of traps and spells, so we are primarily using board breakers. We do have some ways to interrupt the opponent on their turn, but we want a lot of board breakers because those are more likely to be spells and traps, and we really want to have a critical mass of spells and traps in this deck to make sure that we always have something to send off Haya Bellstar, off Astalar, off LZ, to actually get our combo going. For the extra deck, we're going to go a little bit out of order so that everything makes sense. We have Diabell, Queen of the White Forest. This is the White Forest boss monster, and she allows you to add a spell or trap back from graveyard to hand to recoup some of your losses as you're doing your combo. And then if your opponent activates any effect, you can respond, send a spell or trap from hand or field to graveyard, special summon a tuner from your extra deck. The two primary options we're using with that are Silvera, and when Silvera is special summoned, you can change all face-up monsters your opponent controls to face-down defense position. She is an instant speed Book of Eclipse on a stick, but she also makes all of your illusion and spellcaster synchro monsters gain 500 attack and do double piercing damage, which is very useful for finishing out games sometimes. The other one that you're often going to grab off of Diabell is Zapper Shrimp. Zapper Shrimp, when special summon, allows you to send another card from hand or field to the graveyard, destroy a spell or trap your opponent controls, and then it can quick synchro. It will normally quick synchro with the Diabell herself into a level 10, and that's almost always going to be Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel, when summoned, allows you to banish a card your opponent controls, and then it makes all of your synchro monsters gain immunities based on what it was summoned with. Zapper Shrimp and Diabell are both lights, so that means that it makes your synchro monsters unaffected by monster effects activated by your opponent. If you can manage to summon it with a dark as well, your monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. Normally we're just getting the synchro monster protection and the banish off of that, but at instant speed, that's really good. We play a Risiella, Sinister Soul of the White Forest, as our extender. This is normally the first extra deck monster you're going to make because she is a level 6 tuner, so you can get her off of any of your White Forest combos. And when summoned, you can send a spell or trap from hand or field to the graveyard to grab any White Forest card or a light spellcaster monster from deck to hand. So this is either the next piece you need for your combo, or if you have everything you need, it can actually search an effect veiler. That's why we play it as a 1-up, just because it is a searchable piece of interaction. We play Coral Dragon, not mostly for its actual disruption effect, but because we go into Ultimaeus Tzolk'in using one of our Azamina monsters on our turn, and we need a synchro tuner to use to actually do that. That's normally going to be Coral Dragon, and then when Coral Dragon is sent to the graveyard, you get to draw a card, so it's just a little bit of extra value on our way to Ultimaeus Tzolk'in. So Tzolk'in is a weird card that must be special summoned by sending 2 level 5 or higher monsters you control with the same level to the graveyard. One has to be a tuner, and one has to be a non-tuner. So Coral Dragon's our tuner, one of our Azaminas is going to be our non-tuner, normally Muricielago, who we'll talk about more in depth in a second. And then you get Ultimaeus Tzolk'in. He's a 0/0, he doesn't really do much, but when you set a spell or trap on your field, he sees it and allows you to special summon a monster from your extra deck. We use that to special summon Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Crystal Wing is a ridiculous boss monster that once per turn allows you to negate a monster effect, destroy it, and gain a ton of attack. He also just gains a ton of attack anytime he is battling an opponent's level 5 or higher monster, so he effectively is unbeatable in combat. So, you know, negate and destroy monster effect, unbeatable in combat, he's great to have. And then once we have our Synchro Dragon, we can use Ultimate Tzolk'in as just a link material. That's why we play the IP Masquerena SP Little Knight package, because we want to use the Ultimate Tzolk'in for something, but he doesn't have a level and his typings are not particularly useful for us, so link material is the best we can do with him. That gets us into an IP Masquerena. We can almost always end with an extra piece of material to go into an SP on the opponent's turn as well. We play one level 10 in this deck because it's very simple to get into a level 10. We summon Muricielago, we use her effect, we don't really need her anymore. If we're not going into Tzolk'in, then we can just reborn one of our tuners from White Forest. Then that's a level 4 tuner, level 6 non-tuner, you get a 10. If you are playing this on Master Duel, put Baron in this slot instead. My channel, unless otherwise stated, is always for the TCG, and Shengying is the best option we have here. For the actual Azamina monsters themselves, we've got Muricielago, which when special summoned, allows you to search an Azamina or a Sinful Spoils card and add it to your hand. She also has a couple of lesser relevant effects that reduce your opponent's monster's attack and defense by 500, and if she is destroyed, you can search a Sinful Spoils spell as well to your hand. So can be a double searcher. Normally we're just using her to get the one search and then use her as material either for Ultimate Tzolk'in or to go into Shengying. We also have Ilia Sylvia. Azamina Ilia Sylvia makes it so any battle damage your Azamina monsters do is doubled, which is almost completely irrelevant in this deck. But what she can do is tribute herself to negate any card or effect. She is an Omni-Negate, which is really, really important and good to have. Even if she has to tribute herself, she's not on the most impressive body, so we don't mind that, and she's not terribly difficult to summon in this deck. So just having the Omni-Negate is great. She also has the effect where if she is destroyed, you can search a Sinful Spoils card. We also play a Saint Azamina in this deck. Saint Azamina is a really weird boss monster that requires you to use Hollowed Azamina and send 2 Sinful Spoils to the graveyard to get her, whereas the other 2 only require 1. And she's kind of a floodgate that prevents your opponents from targeting any cards in their field, their graveyard, their banishment, or this card itself with any card effects. You would be surprised how many opponents are trying to target things in their graveyard to special summon them, and she completely stops that. You also can't target things in banishment or on their own field, so say Manadium, for example, just off the top of my head, needs to target their monsters to destroy them to trigger effects. They cannot do that with Azamina on the field. And while that in and of itself is a fine effect, but not terribly impressive, she also has the effect that if she was fusion summoned this turn, she can quick effect, which means you can use this on the opponent's turn if you manage to summon her then. You can special summon an Azamina monster from deck or extra deck. So that means if you go into Saint Azamina, you get the body, you get the floodgate, and then you can still just special summon Ilia Sylvia for free. So if you can go into Saint Azamina, it is always worth it to do so. Our last extra deck monster is Mariologic Aggregator, and he is here exclusively because we are playing Ultimate Slayer, and he is just a negate if you send him for Ultimate Slayer's effect. So that's it for the deck profile, guys. Now we're going to go into some combos. See you in a second. So now we're going to go ahead and watch a possible 1.5 card Astalar combo. Remember that almost every combo in this deck is 1.5 cards, and there are variations that you can accomplish within this combo, but this is just one that I have chosen to show you. Let's go. So we're going to normal summon Astalar and discard the Called by the Grave to go get Sylvie from deck. Sylvie triggers to find us Tales of the White Forest, and then we can synchro summon into Riciella. Riciella pitches the Tales of the White Forest to search LZ, and then the Tales sets itself and brings back Astalar with it. LZ is going to send the Tales one more time to special summon herself out and go get LZ Azamina. Other LZ special summons herself as well, and then we're going to synchro into Diabell. Diabell's going to bring back the Tails one more time, and we're going to search up Deception to go into the Azamina combo. We can activate Tails to go get Ruchia from deck to hand, which can special summon itself because we still have a White Forest on the field, and then we can Synchro into Coral Dragon, go into Deception, sacrificing LZ, get the Hollowed Azamina. Hollowed Azamina sends Deception to summon Murcielago. Murcielago can get us Seeker of Sinful Spoils, and then we can use both of them to go into Ultimate Tzolk'in, drawing a free card off Coral Dragon, getting back the Hollowed Azamina, setting it to get Crystal Wing out for free, and then we're going to do the Azamina into Wanted combo that lets you get the effects of both without extra cost. We're going to get Ilia Sylvia and Diabell out, and then we can use two of those to go into IP Masquerena. I keep Diabell here because she is the biggest body, but she's really just here as a piece to use with IP Masquerena to go into SP Little Knight on the opponent's turn. Outside of that, we have Sinful Spoils of Slumber, which was searched off of the Diabell star. That allows us to Book of Moon someone. Diabell can summon the Zapper Shrimp, and then Zapper Shrimp can go with Diabell into Chaos Angel to protect our stuff, banish something, all that good stuff. Ilia Sylvia tributes herself for an Omni Negate. That is our one Omni Negate. And then Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is here as a monster negate and to basically kill anything in combat. Cool. Alright, so now we're going to see the LZ 1.5 card combo. This one is slightly weaker than the Astalar, and we end up with one fewer disruptions on board at the end, but it's still a very strong board with multiple negates and SP and all that good stuff. So here we go. So LZ is going to special summon herself out by sending the Called by the Grave or any other spell to fetch Sylvie of the White Forest. We don't have another spell, so we need to get Sylvie here because we could not send anything with Astalar. Sylvie's going to get us Tails, and then we're going to Synchro into Riciella, sending the Tails to get LZ Azamina. Tails is going to set itself, and we can activate it to go into Ruchia of the White Forest. Both of our cards in hands will special summon themselves out, and then we can go into the Coral Dragon. You'll see why in a moment here. And we're going to get Deception off of the LZ Azamina, and Deception is going to send Riciella to get the Hollowed Azamina. Hollowed Azamina is going to special summon Murcielago by sending the Deception, which will get us Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils. Our two cards on board can go into Ultimate Tzolk'in. We're going to get Astalar back to hand. We're also going to get Hallowed Azamina and set the Azamina, which allows us to get Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. We're going to activate Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils to get the Diabell Star, and to special summon the Ilia Sylvia with another use of the Hollowed Azamina. The Diabell Star is going to get us out Sinful Spoils of Slumber Morrigan, and then we're going to use either of our two tuners from our graveyard, putting back the Riciella to get us an extra body on board, which we can use with the Ultimate Tzolk'in to go into IP Masquerena. So then we can banish the Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils to draw an extra card. So this board does not have Diabell Queen of the White Forest, but it still has the instant speed SP Little Knight, an Omni Negate, a Monster Negate, and a Book of Moon. It's still not too bad for a one-card combo. Okay, cool. So real quick, I'm not going to go over this entire combo, but I do want to mention that double Toy Box functions perfectly fine as like a really good starter in case you ever open up two toy boxes kind of in a hand like this and think you can't do anything. You very much can. So here we go. First toy box sets, and then the second toy box can destroy because they are soft once per turn. So that brings back both our tank and our soldier, and then our soldier is going to search us Sylvie, which is an actual starter. Sylvie's going to go and get us Tales of the White Forest, which we can use to get the Astalar, and the tank can summon Astalar, and from here we just go whole hog and end up in a ridiculous board state. So just real quick side note, I just wanted to mention double toy box functions as a starter. It is not intuitive, but just be aware. Alright guys, so this is a short combo that allows you to get a quick and easy Omni Negate well before Nibiru could possibly come down, and all it takes is either Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils or Diabell Star herself. So here we go. So we're just going to use the wanted to grab us a Diabell Star, activate Diabell Star sending Called by the Grave. She's going to search Deception of the Sinful Spoils. Deception's going to tribute the Diabell Star to get Hallowed Azamina, activate Hallowed Azamina to go into Ilia Sylvia. We can then banish Seeker of the Sinful Spoils to draw an extra card. So this costs us a total of 1 card in our opening hand, but it ends up with an Ilia Sylvia as our second summon, which protects us from Nibiru, and then you can combo off with all of the rest of the stuff you still have in hand. So we are back with some closing thoughts about our White Forest Azamina deck. The very first thing that I want to note is that this deck is hard. Like, it's not the hardest deck in the entire history of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but it is not a simple one to play. There are some unintuitive lines, like the double toy box. There are difficult choices you have to make, like going into the Diabell Star combo to get out Ilia Sylvia early if you think the opponent's going to have interaction. But that does reduce the actual total end board that you can end on. Sometimes you even have to make difficult choices that are unoptimal, but will actually improve your chances of winning in the long run. One of the reasons that while Astalar is our single best starter, we only run 2 copies, is because if you play Astalar, that takes your normal summon. You activate Astalar discarding a card, and then her effect gets negated. That means that you are now down your normal summon, down a card, and you're going to have a harder time playing through what the opponent has left for you, be that their own turn or more disruptions or what have you. So oftentimes, instead of playing Astalar, if you start with LZ, you will search the Sylvie and just normal summon Sylvie. It gives you 2 less pieces of material, you end on a worse end board, but it is safer because you are just searching a card rather than discarding a card to special summon one. Little bits and pieces like that, knowing that you can discard things like your Sinful Spoils but get them back later, knowing when to cut and run on specific lines of play and what you can actually still get to. It's all very, very difficult, very interactive, so just be aware that this is not for the faint of heart. Outside of that, the deck is actually a blast to play. I love this deck. People hate the toy box package. They hate to see it. They hate to play it. I do not understand that because I think it is a very fun series of cards that can be surprisingly relevant in any given game. So against a really good player, someone who knows what this deck is doing, you're never going to run into it, but Toy Box can actually destroy an opponent's monster when it tries to attack. That can stave off, you know, a Tenpai player or someone else trying to go for the kill. It can completely end a game on its own if people just like don't know that it does that. I've run into that a million times on Master Duel, not so much in real life, but you know, it happens. And then on top of that, we just have such a high power ceiling. We get to play like completely ridiculous cards. Ultimate Sulkin going into Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is disgusting. Some decks just straight up can't beat Chaos Angel. Having our second summon be able to be an Omni Negate to protect us from interaction during our combo is so good, and that is why we play 5 copies of the Diabell Star engine in here. It's just a really fine-tuned, very fun deck. It's just a tough one to play, and it does not play terribly well into specific hand traps. Droll and Lockbird specifically will come down before you get the Ilia Sylvia, so you can't protect yourself against that one, and it does really, really hurt this deck. If you can't stop a Mulch Army, like we do a lot of summons, technically we could just go into Ilia Sylvia and call it for turn, but one Omni Negate isn't normally going to stop the opponent from winning the game. There are also the occasional hand where we do not draw enough spells, like if you're starting with LZ, you can kinda make it work if you only have the one spell, but you don't want to, you'd really rather have another one. That's one of the reasons we play so many spells and traps in this deck, is just as extra discard fodder, and so it really, really sucks when you don't open them. It's rare with this number, but it does happen. And so that's going to do it for this deck profile, guys. Thank you for watching, I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.